Hey, welcome to another video on our comments administration part of our database app. In this video, I'm going to show you some CSS to make the boxes look a little bit better than the current procedure. Also, at the top of the screen, you can notice in my comments admin page link, we're going to put something in the top menu. Okay, so this is where we're headed. I've got the div containers defined on this page. You can see that I'm going to have a box around each user and then a box around the section where the comments are appearing. So that's what we're going to do next with CSS. Okay, to create those divs, we're going to have to create a new line here in the while statement. So I'm going to say echo, and I'm going to have a div container, and the class is going to have a special name. Now I'm going to use single quotes, and the reason why is because single quotes work better inside of double quotes. The class name for this thing, let's call this a user container. And then where are we going to end this? So after the while loop is over. So this while loop corresponds to this break. And so just before the end of the while loop, we're going to do the end div. Okay, so now we have this class called user container. Let's go into our CSS styles and define that. So let's come down to our end of the page and let's call it user container. Now I'd like to have just a box around things, so I'm going to borrow the code from recipe container. It's probably not a whole lot different. So I could just copy and paste everything like this, or a preferred method is to actually reuse the code that's here. So I'm going to put a comma and then put .user container and save it. And so two different classes use the same definition. Alright, so let's come back to our comments page. I'm going to hold the shift key down and press the refresh button, and that loads the CSS file. So you can see I've got the first box. Now I'd like to have another box that goes around these guys. So let's go back into our show comments admin, and I'm going to start here just before the while loop and put in another div. So let's say div, and the class is going to be called, let's call it comments container. And at the end of this, or after the while loop, we're going to end the div. So let's put in a div and save it. Now comments container should have a little bit different styling. So let's go into the styles here. I'm going to borrow this container to start with, and then change the details here. So comments container, and the background color, instead of EEE, let's create something a little lighter. How about CCC? And let's see what happens. So I'm going to press the shift. So I refresh the comments, and maybe with the shift key down, and you got yourself a box. Okay, it's not too bad. Now the next step is to put in a delete button and maybe get rid of these equal signs. Equal signs are pretty easy. We don't need them anymore, so let's just nuke those. And instead of using a hyphen, I'm going to give you something new maybe. It's called an horizontal rule, HR. And let's just check to see what that looks like here. So a little bit cleaner. We probably don't need to show the password and the role for each person, so let's take out those two lines. And let's see, a little bit less space if we just put in a hyphen instead of a line break. There we go. So let's stop the video there. We're going to put in a delete button next, and that will process the delete on each of these comments.